Hey there, welcome back everybody to this date in history, being April 23rd. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to a couple of friends. My good friend Jeff, his birthday's today, so I don't know that Jeff would ever see this, but happy birthday, bro. I'll send you a Facebook message later. Also, one of my Joes, as you'll know, I run a G.I. Joe costume club, and one of my Joes have a birthday today, so Kimberly Remsen, happy birthday. I will also send you another message later. So with that, we're going to get started with this day in history, April 23rd. Today is April 23rd, 2024. Bright, beautiful, sunny day. I'm dealing with allergies, so I'm kind of a little stuffy. Been stuffy for the past couple days, so at least I'm hopeful that it's not a head cold, because I may have to seriously slap someone for getting me sick. But I don't think I'm sick. I think it's just allergies. At any rate, we're going to start with birthdays since we already kind of went on that trend. But I alluded to in yesterday's video, I alluded to a famous birthday, a playwright, right? So we can logically conclude that today is William Shakespeare's birthday. There are no official birth records of his birth, but we do have a a baptism record. And back then, in those times, babies were typically baptized the third day after their birthday, right? So my birthday's in 3 days, the 26th. There is a public record that shows that William Shakespeare was baptized on April 26th of 1564. So, ergo, logic dictates that it is on this day in 1564 William Shakespeare would be born. Ironically enough, he also died on this day in 1616. He was only 52 years old when he passed away. So, William Shakespeare, born on this day, 1564. 15th U.S. President James Buchanan would be born on this day in 1791. Other notable birthdays are Shirley Temple. She was an actress. Got her fame really in the late 30s, 40s. She was born on this day in 1928. Roy Orbison. Any of you old country crooners out there, you would know that he was the guy who did Pretty One. That was his song. Other people have done it over the years, but Roy Orbison, that was his. That was one of his famous songs that he did, which ended up being the theme song for a movie in the early 90s with the same title, Pretty Woman. So, Roy Orbison's birthday is today in 1936. If you're into filmmaking or you're into activist filmmaking, I personally can't stand this clown, but that's just me. Michael Moore, the political activist filmmaker, his birthday is today. He was born in 1954. And lastly, Timothy McVeigh. You should know that name because just not too long ago, on the 19th, we discussed the Oklahoma City bombing. Timothy McVeigh, yes, that was that guy. That Oklahoma City bomber was born on this day in 1968. That's all there is to it. I'm not going to give him any more credence. On this day in 1016, Edmund II would claim the throne, succeeding his father, King Ethelred II. This is the King of England. This was right around the time when it's getting close to the time period when all the kingdoms in England were unifying under one banner. I think it's one of the reasons why they call it the United Kingdom, is because once upon a time each area of England had its own kingdom. I've been watching off and on the series. It's not Vikings, it's the other one, I think. I don't know, but it showcases how all the kingdoms kind of came under Ethelred. And yeah, so that was 1016 that Edmund II had succeeded his father, Ethelred II. Going through here, let's go with in 1906, Tsar Nicholas II, he promulgated what was called the Fundamental Laws, which what they did is it ended unlimited autocracy. So it's around this time that, so you got to understand, he was the Tsar. In other words, he was the emperor of Russia. And his family had been basically ruling the country for hundreds of years, 300 years, I think. Long time. He would eventually be deposed. And what was it, yesterday that was Vladimir Lenin's birthday. Lenin would be the guy that deposed him, had him executed, him and the whole family. If you're familiar with the story of Anastasia, there was this rumor that Anastasia had actually escaped the murderous onslaught, but that's not the case. The whole family, plus an attending nurse and doctor, I believe, they were all summarily executed. It was one of those things where they were exiled to Siberia. So like this is the beginning of the end, where he's kind of abdicating his rulership. And he wasn't a bad ruler. It's just that he was just out of touch. He was so young, and he was listening to all the wrong people. He was out of touch with the needs of his people, and a lot of folks were impatient. He was slow to change. The changes were coming, but he was slow to change, and people being impatient, they didn't want to wait any longer. Ironically, the Bolsheviks had took all the credit for everything he had done, as if like that was something that they did. So that's something that communists do really well. Is if there's a good idea, they say it's theirs, and they'll depose the person that came up with the idea. And unfortunately, that's what happened with Tsar Nicholas II, and him and his whole family. I have a lot of respect for Nicholas, because his final words were kind of like that of the Apostle Stephen in the Bible, in the book of Acts. He is cornered, and the ringleader there is this young up-and-coming, he was on the fast track to becoming a Sadducee or a Pharisee himself, Saul, who became Paul. He was the ringleader there, and he led this group of people, or a mob really, and they stoned Stephen to death. It is said in the Bible that Stephen said something to the effect of, prepare my way, I'm coming, but Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Following suit with that, Tsar Nicholas II did just that. Before he was executed, he forgave his executioners, and I find that to be a real class act. So, I have a lot of respect for him. But moving right along, in 1985, and I kind of remember this, it was during the soda wars between Coca-Cola and Pepsi, right? So, on this day in 1985, Coca-Cola introduces new Coke, right? It was a new formula, because up to that point, both Coke and Pepsi had been adding these various different formulas and various different, flavors. And so Coca-Cola introduces new Coke. Well, supposedly, as I remember hearing it, they lost the original formula. And so they had to reissue a new Coke. I don't know how much of that's true, but the funny thing is that they'd introduced this new Coke, and a few months later they had rolled out the original Coke. Like, mysteriously, they found the formula, and so that had been branded as the original Coca-Cola. So, new Coke was rolled out on this day in 1985. On this day, 1998, April 23rd, James Earl Ray dies in prison at the age of 70. If you don't know who James Earl Ray is, perhaps you've heard of Martin Luther King Jr. And if you haven't heard of Martin Luther King Jr., then I don't know what to say. You live under a rock. Martin Luther King Jr. was instrumental in the civil rights movement of the 60s. He was shot down as he was walking out of his motel room. He was sniped, shot in the head, killed in, I believe it was Memphis, Tennessee is where he was. That was April 4th, actually, is when that happened. I only really remember that because U2's song Pride in the Name of Love, he actually references that. You know, he represents this assassination in one of the lyrics, where he says, April 4th, shots ring out in the Memphis sky. And in, you know, the lyrics there, it's a reference to when Martin Luther King was murdered. But the guy that was captured and tried and summarily convicted was James Earl Ray. There's some conspiracy theory out there that says that he really wasn't the guy that did it, but he was the patsy because he was just some dumb local yokel who didn't know any better. I don't know, but history says that James Earl Ray is the guy who murdered Martin Luther King Jr. It is on this day in 1998 that he would die at the age of 70 in prison. And last, on this day, 2007, Boris Yeltsin, who was the first president of Russia. So you got to take into account that back in 1989, a couple things happened. The Berlin Wall fell, and the Soviet Union collapsed due to their economics being bad and Reaganomics at work kind of spent them into the ground. We ended up sending them a foreign aid package with the caveat that they basically shuck their communist ways and they adopt a more democratic lifestyle. And they did. Mikhail Gorbachev was the last premier of the Soviet Union, and when he left, Boris Yeltsin came in as the first president of Russia. But it is on this day in 2007 that he passed away at the age of 76. He was actually a fairly decent leader, near as I could tell. He got along really well with the United States. So, obviously there was a lot of people that didn't like him, but, you know, it is what it is. So. But that concludes this day in history for April 23rd. So, thanks for joining me. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, April 24th, and we'll do it all over again. So there you go. Have a great day. Be blessed, and we'll talk to you soon.